I want to take you to a specific vibe. Picture this. It's the 1950s.
Yeah.
The world is just changing faster than anyone can really process. You've got cars replacing horses, political revolutions, and everyone's just trying to figure out if new is actually, better.
And right in the middle of all that chaos, probably in a smoky Baghdad cafe, there's a man just trying to keep everyone grounded.
Exactly. And this man, he isn't some politician or a general. He's just a friend. In the book we're covering today, he's known simply as Al-Hakim, the sage.
The sage. It does have a certain ring to it.
It sounds a bit like a comic book character, honestly. But yeah, we are diving into Al-Hakim, Problems and Solutions by Abdul Jabbar Al-Waily. And I have to be honest, when I first saw the publication date, I was a little skeptical. I thought, okay, mid-century Iraq, is this going to feel relevant, or is it just a history lesson?
And that's a totally natural reaction, of course. But what Al-Waily does here is so deceptively simple. He's just the narrator, collecting these little pearls of conversation from his friend. But this isn't just a collection of stories. It's really a manual for emotional intelligence, just disguised as cafe gossip. And our mission today, I think, is to decompose his method. How does Al-Hakim find clarity when everyone else is just, reacting from the gut?
Decomposing and distilling. I like that phrasing. Because the problems people bring him are, they're shockingly modern. We're talking cancel culture, burnout, generational friction.
As toxic friends, exactly. The technology changes, but the human software, that hasn't had an update in a very, very long time.
So let's jump right into the first major issue, because this one feels like it was ripped straight from a social media feed. I'm calling it the trap of emotional judgment.
This is right from the opening of the book. The narrator has a friend who is just absolutely trashing a newly published book, calling it weak, silly.
A waste of paper. And so, naturally, the narrator asks him, oh, what part of the plot didn't work for you?
And the friend just admits, I haven't read it, and I don't need to.
Which, okay, to be fair, I think we've all done that. If I know a creator is, say, a jerk, or I can't stand their political takes, I'm probably not going to buy their book. Is that actually wrong?
Well, that's the exact question Al-Hakim gets at. He gives this behavior a name. He calls it al-hukm al-atifi.
Emotional ruling.
Literally. Think of it as confirmation bias cranked up to 11.
Okay, but again, if the author's a bad person, why should I care if I'm emotionally ruling against them?
Because Al-Hakim completely flips the script, he asks. Who actually loses in this transaction? If the book has real wisdom or beauty and you refuse to engage with it because you don't like the author's personality, well, the author doesn't lose that wisdom.
You do! I'm the one who ends up empty-handed.
Precisely. Al-Hakim uses this brilliant analogy. He compares it to a living singer who doesn't delight.
A singer who doesn't delight, what does that mean?
Imagine a singer with a technically perfect, beautiful voice, but you refuse to listen because, I don't know, you think his suit is ugly, or you heard he was rude to a waiter. The delight, the objective beauty of the music, it still exists. It's real. By plugging your ears, you're not punishing the singer. You're depriving yourself of the delight.
That is so annoying, because he's right. It forces you to separate the art from the artist, which is one of the hardest things to do.
It is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But Al-Hakim's point is that your intellect has to supersede your emotion. If you judge an idea based on the identity of who sang it, you're just voluntarily making yourself more ignorant. Spite's expensive.
Spite is expensive. I am writing that down. Okay, but let's take that same internal friction, that stubbornness, and see how it plays out in a family. Because there's a story in here about a blacksmith that really hit me, but I'm still sort of wrestling with the conclusion.
You must be talking about the blacksmith and his son.
Yes. So the father is a blacksmith, hard, honest labor. He fully expects his son to take over the family business. It's the legacy. But the son says, no thanks. He wants to open a fabric shop, sell soft textiles in the shade.
And the father is just devastated. He sees it as a total betrayal. He thinks his son is soft or lazy or just disrespecting tradition.
And I kind of get the dad's side. I mean, if everyone just does whatever they feel like, doesn't tradition just collapse? You lose that generational skill. It feels like the son is just chasing an easier life.
It does feel that way on the surface. But Al-Hakim steps in, and instead of telling the son, hey, respect your elders, he turns to the father. And he says something that is, truly radical for a patriarchal society in the 1950s.
What's the line?
He says, do not ask your children to resemble you. And then the key part, they were created for a time other than yours.
Created for a time other than yours. Wow.
It completely reframes it. It's not rebellion, it's just temporal misalignment. The blacksmith trade was the right survival strategy for the father's era, but the world has moved on. The son, sensing that the fabric trade is the future, isn't an insult to the past. It's a necessary adaptation to the present.
So if the dad forces the kid to be a blacksmith, he's actually setting him up to fail in the new world.
He's setting him up to fail. Al-Hakim argues that forcing a child into an old mold just destroys their potential. And of course, in the story, the son becomes wildly successful in the fabric trade.
It's interesting because it frames tradition not as this, like, sacred moral duty, but as a survival tool that can actually expire.
It can. And this tension, this pull between what we feel we should do and what actually pays the bills, it comes up again in that story of the two writers.
Oh, this one triggers me. The purist versus the sellout.
Well, let's break it down. You have two writers. One refuses to do any work that isn't capital L literature. He will not get a day job.
And he's starving. His family is miserable. He's bitter.
And the other writer, he opens a shop selling electrical appliances, radios, fans, that sort of thing.
Which, let's be honest, is the 1950s version of being a social media influencer. It's purely commercial. The purist friend must have looked down on him so much.
Oh, absolutely. He thinks the appliance seller has lost his artistic soul. But Al-Hakim praises the appliance seller.
Why? I mean, isn't there something noble about the starving artist? Sticking to your principles.
But Al-Hakim would ask, is he starving for his art or is he starving for his ego? The appliance seller works all day, he earns a dignified living, and then he goes home to a comfortable house where he actually has the peace of mind to sit down and write.
So you're saying the appliance seller is actually writing more than the starving guy?
Way more. The so-called purist is so consumed by hunger and anxiety that he can't produce anything of value. Al-Hakim is making a powerful point about dignity. Honest work, even if it's selling toasters, protects your dignity. And dignity is the soil that art grows in.
That just demolishes the romantic idea of the tortured artist. He's basically saying, get a job, pay your rent, and then write your masterpiece. Don't make your family suffer for your genius.
It's about being pragmatic enough to protect your passion. And this all connects back to the main accusation people kept throwing at Al-Hakim in the book. They called him a reactionary.
Right. A young guy calls him a dinosaur. He says looking to the past is what holds everyone back. We have to be progressive.
And this is where we get to the absolute core of the book's philosophy, the middle ground.
Okay, can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Please.
Middle ground always sounds like such a cop-out. It sounds like fence sitting. Oh, both sides have good points? Is that all he's really saying?
Not at all. It's not a passive position. Al-Hakim's middle ground is an active process of synthesis. Think of it like renovating an old house.
Okay, I'm with you.
The extreme reactionary refuses to change anything. He'll live with the leaky roof and drafty windows because that's how it's always been.
And the extreme progressive.
Well, in this young man's view, he wants to bulldoze the entire house and just sleep in a tent because houses are an outdated concept.
So the middle ground is the architect.
The architect who looks at the blueprints. He asks, okay, which of these is a load-bearing wall? You keep the load-bearing wall, the tradition that holds society up, and you tear down the faded old wallpaper, the customs that no longer serve you.
So you're using the light of the old to illuminate the path forward.
That's it, exactly. He's drawing on Aristotle's golden mean. Courage isn't just not being a coward. Courage is the perfect middle ground between cowardice on one side and recklessness on the other. It takes more intellect to find that balance than it does just run to an extreme.
That makes so much more sense. It's an active position, not a passive one. But speaking of things that require a huge amount of active effort, we have to talk about the story of the missing dinar.
Source 14. I had a feeling we were going there.
I read this story 3 times just to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding something.
It's a real shock to the system.
Can you set the scene for us?
2 best friends. One is a wealthy merchant, the other a simple farmer. The farmer visits the merchant shop. They have some tea, they chat. After he leaves, the merchant realizes a packet of money is missing from his safe.
And the farmer was the only other person there.
The only one, so the merchant immediately suspects him. He doesn't say anything, but the friendship feels, broken. The trust is gone.
Now, in any modern story, the farmer would storm back and demanding an apology. How dare you check the cameras?
Right, but this farmer does something completely different. He senses the suspicion. So he goes home, sells his crops, maybe some of his own belongings. Yeah. Scrapes together the exact amount of money that was lost. And he secretly returns it to the merchant, pretending he just found it. where the merchant had misplaced it.
Wait. He paid back money he didn't steal?
He did.
That sounds insane. Doesn't that just make him look guilty? And why would he pay for his friend's mistake? That's not friendship. That's just being a doormat.
And that's how it looks through our modern transactional lens.
You
treat me well, I treat you well, you accuse me of theft, the contract is void. But Al-Hakim is trying to illustrate a concept called wafa.
Wafa.
Deep loyalty, fulfillment of a promise. The farmer saw their bond not as a contract, but as a covenant. He decided the relationship itself was worth more than the money, or even his own pride. He basically paid a friendship tax to save the merchant from the pain of being suspicious.
But the truth eventually comes out, right?
It does. Much later, the merchant finds the original packet of money. It had just fallen behind the safe.
Oh, that's a gut punch.
She's crushed. He realizes his friend wasn't just innocent. His friend was so profoundly noble that he sacrificed his own livelihood just to preserve the friendship.
That is heavy. It really forces you to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Would I send a friend a few $100 to end an argument, even if I knew I was right?
And most of us wouldn't. We'd rather be right and lose the friend. The farmer preferred to be wrong and keep the brother. It shows that Al-Hakim's middle ground isn't just about compromise. It's about prioritizing the human element over the material one.
Prioritizing the human, that really feels like the thread tying all these stories together.
It is. It's about seeing the person in front of you.
Oh.
Which brings us, I think, to that cafe debate, the one about religious diversity.
Oh, right. So they're in the cafe, and someone asks, why are there so many religions? Christians, Muslims, Sabians? Wouldn't it be better if we were all just one thing? Wouldn't that solve all the conflict?
Yeah, this desire for a monotone world. And Al-Hakim just shuts it down. He quotes another thinker, Al-Aqwad, who said the reason for diversity is to be distinct. To be distinct. His argument is that if we were all the same, the intellect would stagnate and die. There'd be no debate, no comparison, no growth. Diversity isn't a bug in the human system. It's the engine of the mind.
And he backs this up with scripture, doesn't he?
He does. He references the Quranic verse that says believers, whether they're Jewish, Christian, or Sabian, who do good work will have their reward. He shifts the entire focus from the label you wear to the actions you take.
Which is the ultimate middle ground move. He's not saying all religions are the same, but he's saying the metric we should care about isn't the theology, it's the behavior.
It's always the behavior.
Yeah.
And to contrast that high-minded ideal, we get that little story of the snob in the taxi.
This one is so satisfying.
So a shared taxi in Baghdad. A woman gets in. She's beautiful, impeccably dressed, expensive perfume. Visually a 10 out of 10.
And then a little kid sits next to her.
A poor kid, maybe a little dusty from playing outside, and she just snaps, screams at him, insults his poverty, just total needless cruelty.
And Al-Hakim is in the taxi watching all of this.
And he notes something fascinating. He says the moment she showed that cruelty, her physical beauty it evaporated for him. He actually describes her as appearing deformed.
Deformed?
Yeah, because true ugliness isn't a crooked nose or cheap clothes. True ugliness is a lack of compassion. In Al-Hakim's worldview, the farmer who paid the money he didn't owe is beautiful. This wealthy woman who screamed at a child is hideous.
It completely flips the social hierarchy on its head. We spend so much time curating our appearances, our LinkedIn profiles, our outfits. But Al-Hakim is saying you can wear designer clothes, but if you're mean to a kid, you're just ugly.
It's a harsh truth, but it's also liberating. It means beauty is a behavior, not just a genetic lottery.
So if we zoom out from all these stories, the critic, the blacksmith, the farmer, the snob, what is the Al-Hakim method? If we had to distill it for the listener.
I think it comes down to a single word.
Pause.
Every single mistake we talked about today happened because someone reacted instantly, without thinking. The friend hated the author, so he instantly trashed the book. The father felt insulted, so he instantly rejected his son. The merchant saw the missing money, and he instantly suspected the farmer.
And the woman in the taxi felt the kid brush against her and instantly screamed.
Right. Al-Hakim's wisdom is the discipline of creating a small gap between the stimulus and the response. And in that gap, in that pause, that's where you find the middle ground. That's where you can ask, is this a load-bearing wall? Or is my friendship worth more than this money?
It's so countercultural. In a world that runs on hot takes and instant clapbacks, Al-Hakim is asking us to do the hardest thing possible. Just shut up for a second and think.
And to value the human connection over the abstract ideology. That's the essence of his decomposing and distilling method. You strip away the emotion, you strip away the ego, and you look the human cost.
I really want to leave you, the listener, with that question from the missing dinar story, because it is going to haunt me all week. We all like to think we're good friends. But how much would you actually pay out of your own pocket to save a relationship, even if you were falsely accused?
It's the ultimate test of Wafa. And I
Mhm.
think the answer to that question tells us a lot about whether we're living in a series of transactions or in a real community.
A huge thank you to Abdul Jabbar Al-Waili for these stories that somehow, from a Baghdad cafe, managed to explain my entire life. And thank you for pausing with us today.
Go find your middle ground.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.